Health.
No, it's so weird to have like PPA. It's so weird that people are actually sitting in the room.
I kind of like it.
It's great, but I mean, it feels weird too.
Yeah, it does. Good to go. Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call this April 12th, 2021 Sylvania Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Shanks, can you call the roll?
Julie Hoffman.
Here.
Bruce Lonslutsky.
Here.
Greg Feller.
Here.
Kimberly Conklin.
Here.
Tammy Lavalette.
Here. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Anybody interested who's watching online that is interested in public participation can send an email to district@sylvaniaschools.org with your name, address, and phone number, and we will call you at the appropriate time. And with that, we are with you, Dr. Motley.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see some folks here joining us in 4747. In regards to the superintendent's report for this evening, I have a number of items that I would like to share with the board and those who are present and those who may be watching live or later about some of the events and activities that I've participated in serving as the superintendent of Sylvania Schools. I continue to visit buildings and engage with students and staff. Last week, it was so great to visit over at Central Trail on School Picture Day. All the kiddos had on their spring outfits, which is always a happy time of the year. I know I've often tried to pop into teachers' lounges to meet and engage with staff, but I will say it's a bit unusual when I venture into teachers' lounges, no one is there. Under the pandemic, I think we've created some new habits and where teachers are meeting in classrooms or either as a small group or social distancing and doing planning or having lunch in their rooms. So I've just been knocking on doors and popping into classrooms so that I can really see and engage our students and our teachers and learn a bit more about Sylvania Schools, as I'm still new, but I have to tell you, all the teachers have been so warm and so welcoming. I love kindergarten. I remember last month I visited a building and it was leprechaun. They were looking for the leprechaun and the leprechaun was out and about and it made a mess of the room. Our little kindergartners had to look for the leprechaun and write a letter to the leprechaun trying to catch the leprechaun. It was just really great. So thank you to all of our teachers who have welcomed me into their classrooms. Please know you're going to continue to see me. And also, please feel free to invite me into your classrooms. I love to spend time with children. I love to engage with children. So please know I will make it a priority. If you invite me, I will be there. Also, I've had an opportunity this weekend, along with Ms. Hoffman, to participate in the Sylvania Expo on Saturday. It was my first time, obviously, but what a great event and a great opportunity. It was my absolute pleasure to serve at the booth. And I spoke to so many folks who were alumni. And not just parents as alumni, but we met grandparents who were alumni. And it was just a delight. So that was a great opportunity for all of us. And I want to thank those administrators who I also asked to volunteer their time to represent Sylvania Schools at the booth. We had several principals who came out and worked the booth. And that's something we're going to continue into the future.
And the mascots.
And the mascots came. Highland. Oh, it was. It was quite warm, to say the least, but we had the Stranahan Bulldog, and we also had the Highland Cardinal that were there in full regalia with their mascots. It was great. Also, I'm proud to say that I had an interview that hit the front page, and albeit the front page of the Bobcat Blade, it was really great and it was fun. About a month or so ago, I want to say, I might mistaken her name, Mrs. Miskoff at Sylvan. In fact, she is, her mother works for the Sylvania Advantage, and I think her desire to work for the newspaper and inspire kids to be a journal or to really investigate and see if they want to become a journalist starts at Sylvan. And I actually was interviewed by a student by the name of Emerson Machanda, and he wrote an article for a school newspaper, and the article was called Our New Superintendent. So I made the front page. I felt very good about that. For our families too, and folks who are here, I think it's important to know, I know many are looking already toward next year and what that's going to look like. We continue to monitor our enrollment numbers for staffing. It's just something we continue to do all spring. I think it's important that our families know and our teachers know that we are continuing to look at our sections of classes, the need for new teachers to support our students with teaching and learning. That means gen ed and special education. We are also exploring additional positions for our buildings, and that means an increase in medical support at each of our schools. We know that we need support in our clinics, and that's something we take seriously. So we're looking to explore how we can expand those services. Also, in the past week, we've reached out to those families. So for those of you who may be watching, if you intend to return to Sylvania schools next school year, you may have chosen or elected to attend a private school or an online school this school year due to COVID. Please feel free to come back because the best education here is in Sylvania schools. And we would love to have you back, love to have you return to our classrooms and become a part of our Sylvania schools family once again. So if you are interested or you're thinking you are going to return to our buildings next year, please go ahead and register or contact your building principal so that we can anticipate your return and make sure we have the appropriate staff in place. Also, sharing another tidbit, over the past several months, I've participated in a number of conversations around the expansion of the NLL, which is our athletic league. I'm pleased to say that Mr. Zeroff has also participated in a number of meetings with this discussion with superintendents, athletic directors, as well as building principals. And at this juncture, it looks like now our league will now include Fremont Ross, Oregon Clay High School, Findlay, and Whitmer. And so this change will commence in about 2 years. That's where it stands right now, but it could change. Typically, when they add enrollment to a league, it does not start for at least 2 years. So just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. Also, we have started this year's interview season, and we are well into it. This week, we have second round interviews for 3 positions within the district, and we are moving along. And I also participated in 2 virtual sessions with BG and UT, actually, in regards to get to know Sylvania schools, and had a chance to inspire some up-and-coming graduates about why Sylvania schools continues to be the gem of Northwest Ohio. And my final update I would like to share is that I continue to hold monthly meetings with members of our Board of Education. I know sometimes people think that this is the only meeting they have when we have this meeting and a work session, but I will tell you, our board members are always available. They're always out about, they're always willing to engage, and they always want to keep a pulse on what's going on in the school district. And I see that as a key function of my job, to make sure each of you are informed. And not only that, that I can answer any questions that you may have or address any ideas that you may have. And so today I had the pleasure of meeting with Ruslan as well as with Kim, and we had a good conversation and getting their ideas and also learning more about their priorities and objectives and goals for the district. So thank you for your time and taking away from your work and your families. I know you are gainfully employed, and I know when you come to work with us as a school board member that it's somewhat philanthropic, but I know it's also close to your heart. So thank you for taking the time to meet with me. And I think Tammy and Greg, you may be up next. I need to reschedule your meeting, Julie. So we're on board. So thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate the work you do to support our work here at the board office. And that's my superintendent's report.
Should we mention the town hall?
Yes, we should. We do have a town hall meeting on Wednesday, and it will be from 6 o'clock to 7:30. If you are interested in attending, you may do so virtually or in person, but I will tell you, because we're holding it at Timberstone in the cafeteria, seating is limited, but feel free to go online. You can go to our webpage, our landing page on our school website, click on the link and submit a question that you may have that's on your mind. There really isn't a focus topic this time. The last time we had what's the function of the board and how the board works. But if you have a question on your mind that you would like us to address, please submit your questions and we'll be happy to respond to those questions. In addition, we will have a presentation. I know Mr. Ziroff and Alex Clarkston and Karen Roby will be presenting on our summer school program, our summer swing program, so we can educate our family and communities about what that's going to look like this summer. So please feel free to log on or come out and join us.
Great, thank you.
Certainly.
And we are to presentations.
Yes. Item 3.1 tonight, we have a presentation on the JED proposal, which is a proposal that is actually in coordination with, we have Bill Sanford here, who's representing the city of Sylvania, and Oliver Turner back there. So gentlemen, we're going to turn it over to you as you are going to do a presentation on the proposed Joint Economic Development District Agreement. And that's what JED stands for. So gentlemen, we'll turn over the floor to you. Sure, if you could come forward, that would be great.
First, thank you all for putting this on the agenda tonight. And just to update, because we've been to a board meeting in the past to talk about this. A lot has changed, though, in that time. Superintendent, the board members, we've actually established the JED, the first ever between the city and the township. It began January 1st of this year with Oakley Village down the street here. And that's working out real well. We meet monthly before the supervisors that. And then the other big development is that we have an annexation agreement between the city and the township. I think I'm sure you were aware of it. It's a district. It was a concern with a lot of residents of whether or not the city was going to move forward on some annexations of homes that were in our water district, and we've worked that out, township and the city, so there will not be any annexations on the paper. It's supposed to continue as they have for years now. And I'll turn it over to Oliver now, and he can give you some of the nuts and bolts here of what we're talking about with the possibility of a JED with the schools.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, good afternoon. My name's Oliver Turner. I'm the Sylvania Township Administrator. And appreciate the opportunity to revisit this and address this with the school board. So, as Dr. Mockman mentioned, this would be entering into a joint economic development district. It would be a collaboration involving the school district, the township, and the city of Sylvania. And just for a bit of background, the state of Ohio authorized the creation of joint economic development districts in 1993 with various purposes. To provide tools to drive development, to provide tools to reliably fund quality services, and to promote the ability to invest in infrastructure. And the role of the school district in a JED, it's not unheard of, and indeed, school districts and the communities that they serve can benefit from JED activities. For school systems, being included within a joint economic development district can result in the collection of revenues, which can be used to fund signalization improvements or install pedestrian safety crossings, fund crossing guards, or potentially fund school resource officers. And that's just a few of the examples that the revenue from a JED could help support. There are a number of other benefits which are possible, provided they align with the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code. In terms of how a JED is governed, state statute provides for an independent board which authorizes the distribution of revenues collected within the district. So for Joint Economic Development District Board, it includes representation for the property owner, in which case would be the school district or the school board, as well as representation for employees working within the district, representatives for the municipality and the township that are partners to the district, and an at-large member to serve as the board chair. I think one of the main benefits for Joint Economic Development District would be that it can generate revenues, which can complement taxpayer-funded initiatives. And importantly, if the 6 buildings in the unincorporated portion of Sylvania Township were included in JED, the districts did not capture on millage proceeds that fund school services. The revenues would be generated through the collection of the 1.5% income tax, which would be applied to district employees working inside of the 6 buildings in the unincorporated portion of the township. So in working for this meeting to identify what that means and what the impact is, we were able to estimate that approximately 86% of school district employees currently pay some form of an income tax, and 14% currently are not paying an income tax. Numbers that we looked at show that there are roughly 328 district employees who work outside of the city, inside of the township, and 181 of those employees currently pay an income tax to municipalities such as the city of Sylvania, the city of Toledo, Harrisburg, and Miami. And what's been included for consideration and awareness by the board, there are a couple pieces of information. The first is a packet with background as well as an illustrated example of what this might mean. And then there's an additional reading article, which provides a little bit of history and information about the agency. So just to walk through the illustrated example, what we've estimated is that the total income tax that would be collected within a JED would be roughly $239,000. There is a 2% collection fee which the city administers, and then once accounting for the income tax that's already received by the city of Sylvania, there would be roughly $180,000 in revenues collected from the JED. And a certain percentage of those revenues could be earmarked for a school project. The information that's in front of the school board tonight, as an illustration, includes 15%. I guess you could say the average collection within a district, JED district, is between 10 and 20%, but just for illustrative purposes. But over the course of 5 years, at 15%, the total amount that could be used for improvements within the Joint Economic Development District would be almost $135,000. And then the balance of the revenues, as is the case with many JEDs, would be split between partner township and the partner city. We also have with us here tonight our JED counsel, JED attorney Don Sanderson. If there are any really specific questions that the board has that Bill or I can't answer, but we appreciate the opportunity to come in front of the board and address this, and we'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I do. The city of Sylvania's current income tax is 1.5? Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So this would only apply to school district employees who both live and work outside of the city of Sylvania, effectively?
Right. This would apply, this would establish essentially 1.5% income tax inside of the district. So that would include
Central Trail, Hillview, Stranahan, Whiteford, Arbor Hills.
What a JED does is that you treat everyone as if it's in the city.
Okay.
And then you can collect tax. That's what we're doing at Oakley, and that's working out real well. It's just started, and we'll really know full impact of that one by the end of the year. So it kind of takes a year as you do the collection and everything.
So,
Right now, it's your administration building and 6 schools in the city, and you have 6 schools in the township. As Oliver said, most of the employees are paying the tax, and the challenge too is when they're paying an income tax somewhere else. It's going out of the community. We'd like to capture that, keep that here in this community.
so if they're paying an income tax to, say, the city of Toledo, how does that work?
right. And this, I would qualify this by saying I'm not an income tax expert. But for example, if the city of Toledo collects a 2.25% income tax, and an employee of the district is pay 1.5% inside of the district, a city like Toledo may provide a credit for that when tax time comes. So a resident of Toledo would pay 0.75% to the city of Toledo and pay 1.5% inside of the development district. And that will vary based on the specific regulations and rules of how much credits are given by each municipality. I don't know, Don, if you wanted to add to that.
Is it typically the jurisdiction that the employee works in that gets the first shot at it? If there's a,
It's just who's ever more, I think, isn't it?
yeah, like if they work in Sylvania Township but live in Toledo, then the first 1.5% would go to the JED.
And that employee, well, doesn't see a difference. They're still paying the same income tax. It's just like, we're gonna get a piece of that 2.25 that goes to the city of Toledo.
So the only people it would affect differently would be somebody that's living in Sylvania Township and working in Sylvania, one of those buildings. They would now have an income tax.
Or I guess potentially if they had an income, we're living in a jurisdiction with an income tax that was below 1.5%.
You're right.
Is that correct?
Exactly. That's the 14% of district employees that we've estimated that don't currently pay an income tax. So they may work in one of the 6 buildings in the township, but live in Sylvania Township or Springfield Township, where there's not an income tax.
That's about 147 employees that it would impact. Does the school get a seat on the JED board?
Yes. There would be a representative for the school board as the lawful owner of the buildings, as well as a representative for the employees working within the district.
Anybody else have questions?
So there's 5 total, but there's the school, and then the employee, so technically 2, because one's with your private teachers, whatever, and one with the board.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for, and if you have any questions, once you have a chance to review more or whatever, just reach out and be glad to try to answer.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 3.2. We have Ms. Cheryl O'Shea here today. Cheryl is going to do a presentation on our emergency response and telecommunication system for the district. As you know, Cheryl is our Director of Technology for Sylvania Schools. So Cheryl, thank you for being here this evening.
Yes, no problem. Are you doing something up here? I am. I'm gonna have some on the screen. I didn't want to mess up Lisa's board docs, so she's fixing it so we don't break it.
I'm gonna come sit with you. Because I'm fully vaccinated.
Oh. Which township?
Good job.
It's like right there.
Do they pay city taxes too? I need to look at that building. Sometimes in township. Which township, for instance? All right, everybody can see, sir. All right, good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk about our telecommunications emergency response system. The current communication system is a Nortel-based system that we installed in 2000. Nortel went out of business in 2000, or they filed for bankruptcy in 2009 and subsequently went out of business. So we've been maintaining this system for about 12 years with a system that doesn't have a company that owns it any longer.
Sounds fun.
It's been fun. So there was a local company that was helping us out, and they were helping to provide support. The gentleman in that company retired, so they let us know about 6 months ago that we no longer have local support. There are only 2 companies in the United States that still support North-based systems. One's on the East Coast and one's on the West Coast, so no one local. So as you can imagine, it's been increasingly difficult to get support, and we are now also running into a problem with finding parts. We're looking on the internet for parts. We can no longer find them. And then lastly, this is obviously old technology. It's a PBX-based system, so that's a private branch exchange. We actually have a giant unit sitting in our server room. It takes up a good third of the room, and that is our phone system. To give you a visual, our current phone system would be comparable to us still using flip phones. Okay? A new communication system. So the new systems are server-based, hosted server-based. They're voice over internet protocol, which basically that means that we can take your voice file and we convert it to a digital file and we can send it over our network lines. The new systems they're a dynamic communication tool. They don't just make phone calls anymore. This is, it's a really great system to allow us to enhance our abilities and to be more efficient. I want to highlight 2 things on this system that really hit home with the emergency response. We can program a button on the phone, on the hand side, to be an emergency button. So or a panic button. If a teacher would push that button, or even a student, if the teacher was incapacitated, would push that button, that would go directly to the office, and the principal or someone else in the office would know what room they need to go to right now. And if anybody remembers back, we've had an incident at McCord and another incident at Maplewood in recent years where this would have been a great tool to have. The next safety feature on this would be our enhanced 911, which is E911. What that does is if a 911 call goes out from one of our classrooms, right now, they have to talk to the dispatcher and say, they know what building, so they'll know, say it's McCord, but they have to say I'm in room 10, da-da-da-da-da. The new enhanced 911 allows the dispatcher to see what room the call is coming from. So they know right now, I need to dispatch EMS to that classroom in that building. Along with that, we can have that text a designated person in the building. So the principal, the assistant principal, the secretary, whoever we choose and however many people we choose can get a text that says, someone in this room just called 911. That principal, let's say it's the principal, they can grab any handset in the building. So they're in the cafeteria on lunch duty. They grab the nearest handset, they plug in their code, and they're now on the PA system, and they can put the building into a soft lockdown until they figure out what's going on. And that was necessary in our McCord incident. Along with our emergency features, there are other communication features. Obviously, the number one is they can make and receive phone calls. Okay. However, this voice over IP system also includes e-fax delivery, so you can fax directly from the system. You have the ability to have your your voicemail. This is my favorite feature. Your voicemails will be converted to emails. So when you read the email, the little red light on your phone goes off. I really want that. So I think that's one of the great features of this. And there are many, many other features. Another one that's big for us right now is it would be WebEx, which is the same thing as Google Meet and Zoom. So we would be able to do virtual meetings from our communication system. The last part of this, I know will make Lisa happy. We also will have some reduced technical costs. We are literally maintaining a physical thing, a physical system right now. That will all go away. This will be a hosted server at our ITC, which is Milwaukee. They have a server farm in Archbold. They also have another server farm in Cleveland. So we have physical backups. So it'll be software support instead of physical hardware support. With that will come some reduced costs. We won't be looking for these parts that are really difficult to find, hiring other companies to come in and help us support this system. And then the last little bit of a reduction in cost is we have about 70 plain old telephone service lines. We call them POTS lines. We have about 70 of those right now. It costs us about $20,000 a year to have those lines. We still will have one in every building. That will be our backup to the backup, to still have a regular telephone line. However, we will be able to reduce that down as soon as we can pry some fax machines out of the hands of these people. And a lot of them are in this building. But we do have physical fax machines that are out there. And once we train people to use the e-fax, we would be able to pull those out. So let's recap here. The benefits of a voice over IP system. Okay, we're going to have those enhanced emergency features, the panic buttons, the E911. We're going to have the integration capabilities with our PA systems. Futuristically, fire alarm systems, door alarm systems. The system is always growing and changing. We may have to upgrade the fire alarm systems to make that work, but futuristically, this is what the future is. We will have increased stability and reliability with the system from a company, Cisco, which has not gone out of business 12 years ago. The enhanced communication capabilities, the reduction in costs, and then the really cool, another cool one for me, remote operations. So with this global pandemic, a lot of us worked from home for a little while. We were doing everything we could to try to make this work. With a voice over IP system, you take your handset, you take it home, plug it into your network cable. Let's say I'm sitting in the office and I dial Tim's extension, but he took his handset home and he's there. It rings in Tim's house. So this is completely mobile. On top of that, your computer can be your phone. Now, we wouldn't do that in a school district. We're going to need those handsets. Students aren't going to be able to log onto a teacher's computer to make a phone call. However, for administrators and for people, if you are working from home for whatever reason, you would be able to download an app and use your computer with speakers and a microphone to communicate. So it's just another way to do it. Any internet connected device can be logged on to our system. You would have a login code, password. It's totally safe and secure, but you would be able to have that versatility. What's next? I would love to get this going for this summer. It will take us about 2 weeks to get the system installed. We'll replace all the handsets, we'll program and spin up a server. We'll complete the emergency telecommunication programming so that we have all the phone numbers with building input as to who gets contacted during the 911 call. I would like to put together written directions as well as video training sessions. A phone call is a phone call. It's going to be the same. They're going to pick it up, dial 9, and dial the number. But we want everyone to use the fax capabilities. We want them to have the opportunity to use the voicemail to email. I think that will make people a lot more productive, and it'll be a lot easier. So we don't want to just have features that people don't use. We want to get everybody on board using all of the features. And the PA integration system is really important too. So I guess, thank you. Do you have any questions though? I went through that really quickly. Veronica told me I couldn't take too much time. I could have told you guys about switches and the network. That's when I told her she shouldn't take. She told me I wasn't allowed to do that. Breaking my heart. No, that's okay. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I saw a lot of people nodding as I was talking, so I think you guys have voice over IP systems at work, huh?
Yeah.
We do.
We
It's
actually-
great. It's really, really great.
We actually transitioned right before the pandemic.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, we transitioned right before the pandemic and it saved us in so many ways.
So it would have been really helpful.
It's really, really nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl. We
Thank
appreciate the presentation, just making sure that we're sharing as much information as possible with our board and our community.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
This is the opportunity for the first opportunity for public participation for items on the agenda. Not for on the agenda. Okay. Thank you. Then we are back with you, Dr. Motley.
Thank you. Item 5.1, I ask for your approval and recommending board approval for the acceptance of gifts. We have a donation of 380 angle rulers with a bag and a carpenter's pencil from John Soley. He's from our district career tech department. And also another donation of books. We have 59 copies of How to Steal a Dog and 61 copies of The Second Ruby Tuesday. by the Read for Literacy and sponsored by Buckeye Cable System. And those books will be going to Arbor Hills.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Just thank you for the donations.
Yes, thank you. Lisa?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Super. Item 5.2, I am seeking board approval for the first read of a variety of policies that are noted. They include, but are not limited to, the employment of administrators, evaluation of principals, interscholastic athletics, volunteers, removal, suspension, expulsion, and permanent exclusion of students, investments, waiver of school fees, and religious and patriotic ceremonies and observances. And again, this is for a first read.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
I do have a question. On the protective facial coverings policy, I noticed it doesn't reference anything to do with vaccination status. Is that contemplated at any point?
Not that I'm aware of, but we can certainly check. We have a policy meeting on Wednesday, and we can certainly check with Neola, because I will tell you, Neola is a statewide, and that's more specific to county. I do know that the governor also sent out a new update for mask requirements on, I think, Thursday or Friday of last week, and we do want to make sure that's in alignment, and we did this work prior to. So let me take some time and explore that a little further, and I can certainly get back with you about that.
Thank you. I was just curious in particular if small groups were meeting together where everyone.
Right. The only thing I know of now is that as adults, I do know that, and as employees, if everyone has been vaccinated, for example, and you do not need to wear a mask, but if someone in the room has not taken advantage of the vaccine, everyone has to wear a mask. And I know for age groups, because vaccines aren't available for elementary students, there may be some caveats in there that we can explore a little further. And that's the power of having a first read. We have time to look at that and circle back before we seek your approval for an adoption of that specific policy.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5.3, we are seeking recommendation for board approval for policy 5330, which really looks at how we distribute and use medication in our schools for our students.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5.4, I am seeking board approval for a agreement between Sylvania Schools and the Sylvania Area Joint Recreation District, and this looks at facilities usage. We are recommending this agreement. It is a 10-year agreement. Our last agreement was, I believe, for 25 years. Is that correct, Ms. O'Shea? So this is an updated and revised agreement. I will say there was one slight change, whereas Timberstone was part of the agreement because they actually maintained the land in the fields there, and they used to cut the land in the fields, but quite frankly, even when they established the agreement, they never used that particular facility. So that was one caveat that we did remove out of the agreement, but everything else is pretty much the same. Cheryl, do you have anything else to add?
No,
Okay.
you summed it up.
All right,
Take out Timberstone and drop it to 10 years.
thank you. And we do recommend approval.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Thank you. I'm seeking approval of item 5.5, which is a resolution for ODOT road salt contract. This is an annual item that we seek board approval for.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Bruce Vanswitsky,
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5.6, we are seeking board approval to allow Meta Solutions cooperative advertising in order for us to receive bids for school buses for the upcoming school year. We are looking just for this approval so that we can go out and seek bids for potential bus purchases.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Vansowski,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Thank you. And it is bittersweet that I recommend for approval item 5.7, an administrative resignation. As many may already know, Mike Bader actually retired on March 26th. He had 22 years in Sylvania schools, and I actually was fortunate enough to stop in at his retirement luncheon, kind of roast him a little bit with the rest of his staff members. There were lots of jokes going around, and quite frankly, a few tears. We thank you to Mike for his dedication and commitment to Timberstone Elementary and our Sylvania family.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
I just want to say thanks to Mr. Bader. I had one child go through Timberstone and one there right now, so he'll be missed for sure.
Yes. I'll miss seeing him around the district. Ms. Shanks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Bruce Vansowski,
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to human resources, we have several items that I am seeking approval. This will be on a consent agenda item basis. Item 6.1 is a correction for a licensed administrative substitute. It was a correction to the February 22nd board agenda, more specifically item 7.5. We also have item 6.2, which is a licensed retirement. We have Carolyn Rothkar, who's been with our district 24 years. Wow, that's just fantastic. Another dedicated employee who's committed to our students and our Sylvania schools family. She was a social studies teacher at Northview, and she retired, I think will retire effective this Wednesday, April 14th. So if you haven't had a chance to see her or touch base with her, we do wish her well, as she has definitely earned her time to enjoy retirement. We have item 6.3 that we are also recommending for approval, which is licensed resignations for a variety of employees there. We have item 6.4, we recommend approval for a licensed home instructor. Item 6.5, we recommend approval for licensed extra duty pay. You'll see some folks listed below with a cap on hours for the work they're doing. I will tell you the second group there of individuals really are covering the Crisis Credit Recovery Program, and they are actually being paid out of a High Schools That Work mini grant that was obtained by the teachers, and we are very proud that they have sought out alternate funding to support some initiatives that really support our students. Item 6.6, we're seeking your approval for some supplemental positions within the district, which looks to really support our athletics when we're looking at lacrosse for boys, an assistant coach, and we have also a girls track coach there as well, and a lacrosse girls assistant coach. Item 6.7, we recommend approval of a athletic volunteer. Item 6.8, we recommend approval of licensed substitute teachers, where we have 2 brand new substitute teachers, yay.
Then can you skip the next one?
Well, good. Well, there is some interesting news that Ms. Burnt shared with me. Of the 3 in item 6.9 that we are recommending licensed substitute resignations, I believe 2 actually never started with us. They started the process, but they didn't complete the process.
That
So
is not
actually,
as
we're
bad
still
as
ahead. That's correct. Item 6.10 is we seek your approval to approve license unpaid leave absences. And then item 6.11, of course, is the consent approval for all the aforementioned items.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 6.1 to 6.10.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Bruce Vansowski,
Yes.
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to classified human resources, we have item 7.1, classified personnel actions. We have several folks who have been hired and transferring to different positions throughout the district, from cafeteria service to a paraprofessional, or perhaps even a bus driver or a playground aide. Item 7.2, we are looking and seeking your approval for classified additional hours for human resources for classified staff. 7.3, we do have a classified resignation of a paraprofessional and a bus driver, and who also served as a playground aide. In item 7.4, we are pleased to see so many classified new hires serving for cafeteria servers, also a couple of district substitutes as well. And we seek your approval for the item 7.1 through 7.4. Just want to make sure I'm right on that for the record. Yes, 7.1 through 7.4. 7.5 is consent agenda approval.
I'll move for approval on a consent agenda basis, item 7.1 to 7.4.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Shanks?
Greg Feller,
Yes.
Bruce Leslinsky,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Tammy Lavalette,
Yes.
Julie Hoffman.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we are at public participation for items not on the agenda. I know we have one to call and some folks here. It's just so exciting. We haven't had people here to talk to us in so long. So when you come up, just give us your name and your address, and then you can address us. Try to limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Nancy Larson.
Is this okay?
Yes. Come on.
Thank you. This is interesting to sit here and watch you all do the work. I live at 4015 Newcastle Drive in Sylvania, and I am a retired social worker with about 40 years of experience, mental health, and I'm here today to talk with you a bit about my feelings about the cell phone tower proposal for Northview High School. I've spent my life looking at people's health in the environments in which they live. I've done a lot of couple counseling, a lot of family counseling, but social work training also involves, kids in schools and kids in their environment and all of the different systems that impact our health. I wanted to take a step back and say thank you all for managing your work in this pandemic environment. I know that it has not been easy for you to be making decisions about shutting down school and, hybrid and virtual and all of that. I don't have kids in the school at this time, but I know that you took a lot of flack from some of the parents in the decisions, but I just can't imagine how difficult that was for all of you to have to deal with all of the different factors, and thank you for assuming that responsibility and taking that on as public servants for Sylvania. So I applaud you all for the difficulty of getting through this last year, but we have survived, and I'm vaccinated, so I feel like I'm on the other side of it, and I hope that that's how you feel too. I am not okay with putting a cell phone tower on Northview High School. I don't think that it is a healthy thing for us to be exposing ourselves and our children to even more electromagnetic radiation. I understand a little bit from the outside. I had to learn Zoom. I had to run a campaign for state rep by virtual means. I understand that the teachers had their back up against the wall to try to work remotely, and that we need reliable cell phone, we need reliable internet and lots of bandwidth for the increased usage. I hope some of that goes down with being able to have kids back in school, so maybe the worst of it is past and it's not really as critical to boost that now as it was a year ago. But at any rate, I don't think that the best solution to that problem is to put a Verizon 4G cell tower on Northview, and Dr. Samuelson can speak more to the research that's been done in the last 20-some years about that. So that's my feeling, and does anyone have any questions for me about that? I know the teachers need this technology. I get that, and I feel for how they've been struggling, not really feeling like that they have the resources available to do what's been required of them in this pandemic. But I think there's a way to make that happen that does not expose all of us to more environmental, what I consider carcinogenic influence. So that means that Verizon takes the burden on for solving the problem in a different way than the cell phone tower. And I'm asking you to reconsider the decision that you made to give them approval. I don't think you had all the facts and the research about the health effects for this long term, and it is cumulative. I was not aware there's one already on Maplewood, there's one already on Southview. We're talking about daily doses from multiple sources. And at some point, I want us to say, we're not going to solve the problem of needing technology in the short term while we are creating a longer term problem. Because I think we can have reliable service and also do that in a way that minimizes the health effects. But that's not the current plan that is being proposed, and I want there to be reconsideration of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsay Samuelson? Again,
Hi.
you come up, give us your name and your address, and then try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Sure, thank you for your time, I appreciate it. And I appreciate everything you guys do. And I just want to bring to your attention my experience with this issue. My name is Lindsay Samuelson. I'm at 5242 Eagle Ridge Lane in Sylvania. I was a Northview graduate. I'm a naturopathic doctor, went to a 4-year medical school, practiced in downtown Sylvania. I work a lot with people with chronic health and disease issues. I majored in telecommunications in the mid-90s after graduating at Northview, and I specialize in environmental medicine and environmentally induced diseases. So radio frequency radiation includes radar, Wi-Fi, mobile phones, and cell phone towers. Over the past 10 to 15 years, our exposure to these EMF waves has increased significantly. Not 2 times, not 4 times, not 8 times, not 10 times, but 10 to the quintillion. That's 10 with an 18 zeros afterwards. And that statistic was about 4 years ago, which is prior to smart meters and what else? 5G technology, which is now being implemented everywhere. And that's the same spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. Research continues to provide insight into the harmful effects on neurological, cardiovascular, reproductive, and immunological tissue and function. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Cleveland Clinic have recognized the ill effects and recommend reducing exposure wherever possible. Studies indicate negative effects on learning, cognition, concentration, behavior, memory, and mood. It damages cells, generates free radicals, lowers sperm count, and increases genetic damage. All, and here's the important thing, all under levels far below what the FCC considers safe. In fact, the FCC is currently battling a court challenge at the DC Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. At the hearing in January, their advisory committee admitted that it has never considered cell phone safety in their FCC safety standards, which were established based on 1991 technology in 1996. So that was before smartphones, and they didn't even exist then. So that decision is coming down into the courts hopefully soon. So we'll see what that brings. So while we are increasingly dependent on our technology, we must adapt to it wisely and swiftly. It is time to consider other viable options for safe, secure, speedy access to the web, and there are options. This issue has been compared to secondhand smoke, and the slow but ultimate recognition of a very serious problem is coming. We can wait 20 years, or we can act now to prevent cumulative damage on our community. Now is an exciting opportunity to put Sylvania on the map as being at the cutting edge of safe and responsible technology, providing a template for other schools around the district, state, country, and the world to address this growing issue by using wired internet connections in the classrooms. Teachers want reliable connections. which can be provided by using Ethernet cables to connect our Wi-Fi. This is what we used to do before we switched to Wi-Fi. My home is configured this way, and I did it myself. I just watched a YouTube video. It's the alternatives exist are 1,000. So the fiber optics and the Ethernet is where I'm talking about this, and it's thousands of times more energy efficient, more reliable, and secure too, without being hazardous to the health of the surrounding community. Installing wired Ethernet connections into the classroom will protect our growing children, our dedicated teachers, from the added day-to-day stress for years of the RF radio frequency and the harmful biological effects it has been shown to cause. I know it's late and I won't go into the studies, but if anybody wants to hear more about the studies and the research that are out there, I am happy to talk to you more about that. But there is enough to at least consider that this might not be the best way forward and that there are other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the longest of probably, so I just do it like normal,
9 to get out.
and then 1.
Yep.
Hi.
Hello?
Hello, is this Zoe?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Zoe. This is Julie Hoffman calling from the Sylvania Board of Education. I'm calling you because you requested to speak during public participation. So if you could just, if you could state your name and address, and then the floor is yours for, if you could try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. So I'm on now. I was watching the YouTube, which I think is a little delayed, right?
Yes, you're on now.
Oh, okay, fabulous. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Zoe Berg. I am the project director of Americans for Responsible Technology. We are a nonprofit organization, a science-based nonprofit based in New York. And we deal with telecommunications siting matters all across the country and interface with some of the world's leading scientists and medical professionals in the EMS field. So we just wanted to briefly discuss this evening. Obviously, it's quite clear we are in serious opposition to the placement of this Verizon cell tower at Northview High School for a variety of reasons. And I know Dr. Samuelson, and thank you to Dr. Samuelson for inviting me this evening, had touched a little bit on some of the disease endpoints and adverse health effects associated with exposure to radio frequency microwave radiation, which is wireless radiation, the same type of radiation emitted by one of these cell towers. I'm not going to go too deeply into that. I mean, I'm happy, as Dr. Samuelson said as well, happy to provide some of the peer-reviewed independent research on this topic. The U.S. National Toxicology Program studies, some studies out of Yale that have recently been published, Kaiser Permanente. I think what it comes down to here is that fiber optics, wiring your internet connection, provides superior service compared to wireless. It's faster, it's safer, and it's more secure. And it is the best possible alternative to essentially frying your students, teachers, and staff 8 days a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. This is really not a great deal for the school district. I mean, we did look at the contract, and the monetary gains here are really quite minimal, considering. And the fact that, you do have children are the most biologically vulnerable to this kind of radiation. That's according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer. They can absorb up to 10 times more wireless radiation in the bone marrow of the skull compared to adults. So children are highly vulnerable. You have potentially pregnant teachers and staff. We have an entire program in our organization devoted to educating pregnant women about this issue because of the research on this. And so the liability concerns associated with this kind of exposure and the placement of this facility in such close proximity to where kids are going to school and people are spending, years and years of their lives until potentially retirement are vast. I mean, when you have Lloyd's of London, one of the largest insurance markets in the world, comparing electromagnetic fields to asbestos, you have a problem. And then you have Lloyd's of London and other huge, insurance companies who actually refuse to insure telecom companies for any liability associated with personal injury that could have arisen from exposure to these kinds of, electromagnetic fields, even wireless radiation. So basically, I think, the liability that could be coming down the line, if you have teachers, who come down with certain cancers or different illnesses or neurological problems, students, the district could face serious lawsuits. There is a case actually right now in the LA Unified School District where a teacher developed electromagnetic sensitivity, and she's now suing LAUSD, and her case is proceeding forward because she adequately was able to demonstrate that she became disabled by this wireless technology. So, that's basically what we're talking about here. There are wired solutions. The liability, the risk is too great. There's a better way to solve any capacity issues. And hopefully people won't be working remotely or learning remotely in the near future as, the vaccine rollout continues and the pandemic continues to get under control here. So we don't know if those capacity issues will even remain the same. So that's basically what we wanted to contribute, and we're happy to follow up with any additional information to corroborate some of the topics I discussed. And thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And we didn't get your address at the beginning for our.
Sure, sorry. So I'm in New York, actually. I live in Westchester. I'm at 17 Black Birch Lane in Scarsdale, New York.
Did you get it? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to speak.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Anybody else? Amy? Okay. And we're going to executive session?
Yes.
Okay. Then at this time, I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of.
The employment of a public employee.
Okay.
Second?
Yes. Ms. Jenks?
Julie Hoffman,
Yes.
Greg Fowler,
Yes.
Kimberly Conklin,
Yes.
Sandy Lovett,
Yes.
Yes.
And we will not